I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Alright, we are back with another episode, and today we're going to continue my obsession with the Void Century, my favorite century, the 1800s, the 19th century. And for today's topic, we're going to talk about mysterious, very destructive fires that happened during the 1800s all across the world. But for today's topic, we're going to strictly focus on the Great Chicago Fire, because I believe that the Great Chicago Fire is one of the most bizarre, destructive, mysterious fires during the 1800s. It's one of them, but to me it's the most interesting, so I want to focus on that. And so let's read a little bit about it, and then let's talk about it. So the Great Chicago Fire was a conflagration that burned in the American city of Chicago during October 8th through 10th, 1871. The fire killed approximately 300 people, destroyed roughly 3.3 square miles of the city, including over 17,000 structures, and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. So the date that this destructive fire occurred was in 1871. And the apparent cause, or the accepted narrative of what caused the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, is that the fire began in the O'Leary barn as Mrs. O'Leary was milking her cow. The cow kicked over a lantern, or an oil lamp in some version, setting a fire to the barn, and then it spread to the rest of Chicago, basically leveling 1/3 of Chicago and destroying a huge portion of it. And apparently it destroyed over $222 million, adjusted to inflation. That is $4.7 billion in 2020 dollars. That is insane. Probably more right now because of inflation. So the burned areas are approximately 2,112 acres. So yeah, this was a very destructive fire. Basically destroyed 1/3 of Chicago, thousands of buildings, over 17,000 buildings. And the apparent cause is the fact that a cow knocked over a lamp, set the barn ablaze, and then the rest of the fire spread to Chicago, destroying much of Chicago. And I'll explain to you why it's so bizarre. On my Instagram, I posted a meme concerning this topic of how a cow apparently started the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. And it was just a funny meme, and I thought it was hilarious because the whole narrative just kind of doesn't really make sense. And then someone DMs me and says, "Dude, do you know how a fire works?" And I'm like, yeah, I do, which is why I find this so bizarre and interesting. And I'll explain to you guys why I find it so bizarre. So let's take a look at actual historical photographs of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 that was apparently started by a cow knocking over a lamp, burning down a barn, and spreading to the rest of Chicago. So here are some photographs. Here's the first one I want to show you guys. Absolutely insane, crazy looking destruction. And one thing to note is many of these buildings were like brick stone buildings. Like, take a look at this picture right here. The walls are sliced in half. I mean, the buildings crumbled. They just look like pebbles, you know? The buildings are absolutely turned into pebbles and dust, and it just crumbled, and all you see is some walls standing. Again, and all this was caused by a cow knocking over a lamp. Here's another picture. It shows a building completely demolished. You just see rubble and rocks, and these are all historical photographs taken after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Again, here's more. To me, I don't know about you guys, but it appears like it's been through some kind of war zone. I mean, the destruction is absolutely insane for a simple fire caused by a cow. Here's kind of an up-close picture of what I believe to be, or what's left of, a cathedral. Again, you can see it's a stone structure. Here's another picture. Absolutely insane and very sad. These must have been some absolutely beautiful buildings. Another picture, you can see walls sliced in half, parts of the building still standing. Looked like it just went through an absolute war zone. Here's more rubble. Again, a part of a wall just standing. So much insane looking destruction. I really like this picture. This picture is really interesting. Apparently, this is a photograph of Mrs. O'Leary in Chicago walking her cow. That same cow that apparently knocked over a lamp that burnt her barn down and apparently spread through the rest of Chicago, taking down these stone brick structures. Makes perfect sense. Not really. This picture is very interesting too. Again, beautiful design on the building. It looks like it belonged to an absolutely advanced civilization. Very beautiful architecture, design. You got lines on the side. Very interesting. And again, you got all this rubble at the bottom. Here is a church building. Absolutely obliterated. It's mostly standing, but parts of it has been destroyed by this apparent fire. Here's another fascinating picture. Again, you can see rubble on the ground and the buildings on the side just standing. Looks like it was kind of barely untouched. This picture is very interesting. You see a bunch of buildings all around destroyed, and then you see this one interesting looking structure just standing. But the rest of the buildings are turned to rubble, walls sliced in half. Brick stone structures, and apparently a fire sliced it in half, demolished it. That was caused by a cow knocking over a lamp. It's just, I don't know, man. It's so funny. It's just interesting and kind of hilarious. Here's another guy standing next to rubble. Very just mysterious, very bizarre. I really like this photograph. Very interesting. You got two gentlemen standing on top of the rubble, and you see the buildings behind them are absolutely destroyed. Walls sliced in half. And you see one interesting looking gentleman with the top hat. And then another one with an interesting hand gesture that he's doing. Quite the interesting hand gesture that he's doing. I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, cool picture. Moving on. Another picture. Rubble all across. And then you see the building in front standing. Just absolutely insane photographs of the destruction. I just can't stop looking at this. By the way, guys, I'll post a link to this website. It posts over 400 real historical pictures of the Great Chicago Fire, and it's absolutely insane. So anyway, that same guy that commented and said, "Dude, do you not know how a fire works? Like, this was clearly caused by a cow knocking over a lamp, and the fire spread to the rest of Chicago." And he was basically saying how most of Chicago was like, wooden structures. And I would believe that more if all across Chicago there were wooden structures. But as I've been showing you in these pictures, they're not wooden structures. These are brick stone buildings like that cathedral I've been showing you. And these buildings are not made from cheap material. This is stone brick building. In fact, during the Gilded Age, or the Victorian era, as some like to call it, the 1800s, 1700s, often the material they used was something known as Roman concrete. And we still don't know the exact recipe for Roman concrete. It's incredibly durable, incredibly strong, and incredibly hard. There's actually an interesting video that I've seen about the type of concrete that they used. And it's not the same type of concrete we have today. Their concrete, we still don't know what it's made from. We can't even recreate these buildings with our modern technology today. So these people were not primitive, whoever built these structures. But the concrete they used was uncrackable, very durable, incredibly strong. In fact, I've seen a construction worker comment on a video concerning, old world structures and concrete. And he said that him and other construction workers hate working on old world structures, like taking them down, demolishing them, because the concrete is so incredibly strong and it's a pain in the butt to work with it. But it's very interesting. And as I show all these pictures and evidence to him, he says, "Dude, the Paradise Fire caused an inferno so hot that it melted cars." And I reply that the Paradise Fires aren't any less strange. I mean, they're very strange themselves. Check out this picture of houses turned to dust, stone structures turned to dust, yet the trees all around are untouched. So it looks as if this is some concentrated heat, as if it's caused by some type of bizarre weapon. I don't know. But it is not a normal fire, that's for sure. Here's some pictures of the Paradise Fires where it caused aluminum to absolutely melt. This is not a normal fire. This never really happened before. This fire, the amount of heat that caused the aluminum off the rims of these cars to just melt is absolutely insane. And this is not just any normal forest fire. Again, like I showed you in that picture, the trees around were untouched, but the houses were turned to dust. It's like some kind of concentrated weapon. Very bizarre, but it's definitely not normal. Not anything like we've seen before. And then he goes on to say that our concrete is better and their concrete was worse. And right then and there, I knew he didn't do any kind of research because he didn't look into the type of concrete they use. And as I explained before, they used Roman concrete. Very durable, very strong concrete that we can't use, that we don't know the recipe for exactly today. Their structures and buildings are very advanced for their time. And just because it's something in the past does not mean they're more primitive. I mean, today our building material is very cheap. It's just glass and metal, and our concrete sucks, and our roads don't even last 5 years. Everything is just cheaply made today. But back then, whatever civilization existed that built all these interesting looking structures, people cared about art. They had time to dabble in art. They had time to create beautiful, artistic looking structures, durable structures, and we can't even figure out how exactly they did it. So we're given all these bizarre stories. So again, what do I think really caused the Great Chicago Fire? I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like any normal fire. Let me show you another picture. This picture right here, believe it or not, this is not Chicago. Even though the structure looks very similar to the Great Chicago Fire, this is actually the aftermath of the Nagasaki bombings. So again, looks very similar to the destruction that the Great Chicago Fire went through. But of course, if we were taught in history that the Nagasaki destruction was caused when a cow knocked over a lamp, causing the entire city of Nagasaki to burn down and causing all these stone structures to just be sliced in half and burn down and break down and turn to rubble, most people would believe it because nobody questions anything these days. So most people would accept the reality that's presented. That quote that I always repeat from The Truman Show, but it's just so true. I repeat it so much, I know it can be annoying. But I love that quote so much because it explains why people accept obvious lies. It's just a lot more comfortable to just accept. And the Great Chicago Fire is not the only bizarre fire. I just want to focus on this one because I think it's the most interesting one. There was also a fire caused in Seattle called the Great Seattle Fire of 1889. And the apparent cause for it was an overturned glue pot. And I'll show you some pictures of the Great Seattle Fire. Again, looks very similar to Chicago. You see buildings sliced in half, demolished. And the story is just as weird as the Chicago story, right? The Chicago fire was caused by a cow knocking over a lamp, burning down a barn. And this fire was caused by an overturned glue pot. Again, very bizarre. It looks like it's been hit with bombs. It looks incredibly similar to the Nagasaki, Hiroshima bombings of World War II. But yeah, we're taught in history to just accept. But we're just told to just accept this bizarre narrative, right? Let me show you guys an interesting example of what actually happens to brick buildings when it's damaged by fire. Stone structures are very durable. Brick structures, especially if they're built right, they can withstand earthquakes sometimes, they can withstand fires. And this is an observable example of what happens when a fire damages a brick building. Again, you see, smudges from the smoke on the brick building. You see just a little bit of wear and tear, but the entire building is not sliced in half as if a bomb went through it. So unless most of the brick building is made from wood, which it isn't, a lot of brick buildings are mostly just stone and brick, then I understand the narrative of why Chicago was absolutely demolished. Because all those buildings, as I showed you in the photographs, they were stone brick structures meant to last a long, long, long time. And I don't think a cow knocking over a lamp leveled 1/3 of Chicago. Little Betsy didn't level 1/3 of Chicago. There's just no way. It just seems very odd. So my little speculation is, what if all these bizarre fires happened during a similar time frame, and that they just wanted to get rid of a lot of these old world structures to rewrite history, to reset history, basically. Get rid of a lot of these structures that are just too advanced for the people living during that time with their horse and buggies. Found that very bizarre and interesting. My little theory for why all these weird fires happen and the bizarre explanations they give us is maybe these aren't actually fires, but these buildings were bombed, destroyed, demolished to get rid of evidence of an advanced civilization that possibly existed. Maybe they're trying to get rid of the millennial. Maybe they're trying to get rid of the kingdom buildings, if some of you know what I'm talking about. Because, of course, if the devil is the god of this world, he would love to get rid of as much evidence as he possibly can of these kingdom buildings. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if you would like to support my channel, I do have a Patreon where I post interesting content like this early. Again, you can pick your price on Patreon. If you want to pay $1 a month, you can pay $1. You want to pay $5, you can pay $5. All support is appreciated. Shout out to my current 3 patrons. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support. I plan on reinvesting all the money I make on Patreon and on YouTube because I want to start traveling during the summer and actually visiting some of these old world structures that are actually left and vlogging and doing more interesting content like that. But thank you so much for the support, guys. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, and we are done.